This is SSE Edit. It's the Skyrim Special Edition version of TESS Edit, which is similar to FO Edit. It is the program that I prefer to use as opposed to the Creation Kit for making all of my mods. And I am making a compatibility patch, and I figured I might as well share it because I know some of you people enjoy the behind-the-scenes stuff. So, yeah. So as you might be able to see at the top of the screen, there is a bunch of mods that kind of all conflict with each other and whatnot. We've got the Skyrim ESM, the master file, up.esm, also part of the Skyrim Special Edition and Skyrim Vanilla default files. We have a mod called Extra Hair Colors. This one is kind of superfluous. I actually don't have it activated in my load order, but when you open up stuff at SSE, it pretty much launches everything. So this one's actually kind of superfluous because all this is adding a couple of flags that's already in all the other ones. Hello, Hetero! And I suppose, even though we're doing modding, I should update the broadcast timer, shouldn't I? 9:30. So this one, Extra Hair Colors, as the name implies, it's a mod that allows you to have more variation on hair color for all the player classes and races. The Ethereal Elven overhaul is just a mod I love for the way it overhauls the Elvish races. This is my Khajiit mod, my racial mod, which gives all the Khajiits all their new racial abilities and whatnot. This is a new mod that I was taking a look at called Racial Body Morph, so it adds a lot more diversity to all the races. But it does this by basically giving each race their own unique skeleton. And all of these mods conflict with each other. Plus there's a couple other ones. Consistent Older People, Guild Overhaul. All these mods conflict with each other. Every last one of them. And so I built this mod I just call LX Races-Ethereal Elven, which basically is a giant compatibility patch for all of them. And I basically have to then go through here in TESS Edit. You see I said hide no conflict mode. Basically I look for all the conflicts and then figure out which parts of what mod I want to have as the dominating factor. Because when it comes to modding, whichever is lowest in the load order, whichever has the highest number, like for example, Skyrim's 1, Dawnguard is like 3. This mod is like 4E. Because the numbering is all kind of weird. It's hexadecimal based. So you can see it goes, on the slide you can see 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4F, 50. Oh, the conflicts. Pretty much, let's just, we'll step right through it because obviously I have to do this. So, we'll go. We've got Skyrim and update. Obviously, update is a Bethesda provided file, so its changes to Skyrim.esm are just standard. It's Bethesda making fixes, and they don't like to change the Skyrim ESM. Bethesda is very finicky about changing the actual master ESM file. So typically, what they do is they create an update.esm file, and they just update the update file. That's just their particular philosophy. They could have easily everything that's an update, they could have easily just applied to Skyrim.esm. There's no reason for there to be an update.esm, but that's the way they prefer to do it. So the Extra Hair Colors mod is basically based upon update.esm. And if we just do a quick scan through here, you can see it adds all of these other hairstyles, but all of these other hair color styles are not they're not in the Ethereal Elven overhaul. They're not in my Khajiit mod. They're not in Racial Body Morphs. So by having these mods like Ethereal Elven after it in the load order, basically it makes the Extra Hair Colors mod completely superfluous because it's completely overriding the records that add extra hair files. So, because what the Ethereal Elven does, as you can see here, it changes the tint mask, the way faces are colored and skin is colored. That's a tint mask. It changes the types of noses and eyes and lips that a particular race has access to. And as you can see, it actually adds 2 hair colors that don't exist otherwise. So these two conflict on a very base level because this one is going to use the default values for hairs, lips, and whatnot, which means all the facial changes Ethereal Elven does will overwrite that, but you'll lose the hair colors. You can see there's a bunch of other stuff here, mostly tint masks and tint assets. Here in Ethereal Elven. My Khajiit mod is based upon vanilla. Then the racial body morph is based upon vanilla. The main thing the racial body morph does, as you can see if we scroll up to, where is it about? Here. The main thing that the racial body morph mod does is it changes the skeleton. That's pretty much the only thing it does. So basically what I need to do is I need to have the tint masks and facial morph details from Ethereal Elven combined with the extra hair colors of extra hair colors, combined with the new skeletons of racial body morphs, combined with, and the racial body morph also changes the scaling of the different races. Combined with, well, in most cases, my Khajiit mod doesn't take into apply because my Khajiit mod mainly, the only thing my Khajiit mod really does is it changes the Khajiits. But I did go through each of the races and change their height. So their heights are different than those. And so you can see they all kind of just, they're all doing different things, but they're not, since they're not separate files or separate sections, they're all one section. They all sort of crash into each other and overwrite each other, and then you got to create a compatibility patch for basically all of them. You can see I've been working my way through. So right here I'm working on copying the tint masks. And yes, this is slow and laborious work. And yes, it is boring as all hell. Which is why I enjoy broadcasting it, because at least then I can talk to somebody. Now, of course, I could do a number of things. I could keep the old morph options in, and just add the Ethereal Elven ones. But honestly, I like the way Ethereal Elven reshaped faces. So instead of, so I'm just gonna use those options instead of combining both of them. Because I could combine both of them if I want to, but I'm going to limit them to the ones that Ethereal Elven set. And with the case of morphs, you can see it's actually got a checkmark table here. So with Ethereal Elven, we want to enable 6, disable 8, disable 10, disable 12, and disable 20. As you can see, when basically what's going to happen is you can see on the side here, some of it's highlighted in yellow, some of it's highlighted in red. Basically, red means there is a lot of changes, and there isn't any sort of real consistency. Like you can see here, on this section that's red, which will turn to yellow when we're done, is that all of these are the same. All these other mods outside of Ethereal Elven are the same. Ethereal Elven adds extra values. So by adding these extra Ethereal Elven values, this will turn yellow because that will mean that this mod matches up with something that had added addition options. It's kind of similar with here. This one, the Ethereal Elven removed options, so it's sort of matching. Now this isn't always. You won't always get to where it'll turn yellow after you're done making compatibility patch. You really shouldn't get too wound up about what color it is. You just want to make sure that whatever is the latest, the lowest ranked mod, in this case, my patch, has the changes you want. Because you may end up with, when you're done, something that's like yellow. You may end up with red with green text like this one here. So the coloring, it's telling you that there's some changes and modifications. But while I ideally prefer to see them all in yellow instead of red, because red's kind of an aggressive color, and you really don't like seeing red stuff. Sometimes it's going to be unavoidable. Sometimes you're just going to see red, and you can't really do anything about it. Alrighty, I type 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, 19, 21, 29. The most annoying thing with stuff like this is I can't just do it. In some cases, like if I'm comparing two weapons, for example, I can do a copy across, copy the contents of this record into all other records that I have highlighted and to compare. But with this, you can't really do that because you just really can't. Because if you start messing with this stuff, you could end up having really broken shit happening. So you really have to do this type of stuff manually, unfortunately. Do I take notes on paper? No, because in this I can see all the conflicting values, and I'm just making a choice in my mind how I want things to work. I want the extra hair colors from extra hair colors, so that means that extra hair colors options have to be in there. If Ethereal Elven adds extra hair colors, I have to make sure those are added on there as well. I need all of the tint masks and facial stuff from Ethereal Elven in my master file. I know that for the racial body diversity mod, I'm focusing mainly on the skeletons and the heights. It's just a matter of knowing from what particular mod, what elements I want to build a compatibility for. Alrighty. See, like here, Ethereal Elven. The interesting thing about building compatibility patches like this is sometimes you can even remove the original mod if they're just using vanilla assets and changing those vanilla assets. Like way back when I made my original overhaul for all artifacts, there were a number of mods that changed artifacts. I just looked at them to see what they were doing in terms of the mechanics of how they're doing. And if they're not using scripts, typically it's just a matter of changing values. It's not so much stealing, because like what's the difference between someone setting an artifact to have an enchantment amount of 9,000 and typing in 9,000? You're basically saying the same thing. I want a massive amount of enchantment amount, so this Daedric artifact will not need to be recharged. It's one of those weird things with modding, is that if you have people working on similar things, you might see some overlap, basically. Then, of course, there's other cases where, like, again, when I was doing the artifact mod, they were doing things like creating new enchantments. And so I would create a new enchantment. I'm technically doing the same thing, but obviously the way I change the enchantment is different than the way they change the enchantment. But I mean, technically it's the same function. I'm changing the default enchantment to a new enchantment, and that new enchantment has new effects on it. When I change, for example, in my unlocked enchantments mod, so that Healing Hands does sun damage as well, technically I'm changing I'm changing Healing Hands effect. When I changed the Daedric, the Dawnbreaker, so it deals sun damage instead of fire damage, I'm changing the object effect. And there's other mods that have done stuff like, there's specifically a mod out there that changes the Daedric, the Dawnbreaker, to do sun damage instead of fire damage. But I do that and a dozen other things. It's all basically the same sort of functionality. You're changing the same areas of a group. You're changing the same object effects. In my artifact mod, I de-leveled all the weapons. Now, other mods have done this by introducing a spell that will replace the current weapon you have and replacing it with the higher level version of it. What I basically did is I went into every single, because with leveled weapons, for example, like Chillrend is a leveled weapon. There are 6 different tiers of Chillrend, and depending on when you get Chillrend, will determine which type it is, and that'll affect things like its damage, which version of the enchantment it uses. Basically what I just did, just to make things simple on my end, so I opened up all 6 versions of Chillrend, compared them, and made all of their stats identical. So yes, technically speaking, when you're running my artifacts mod and you grab Chillrend at level 3, and it's got the the level 60 enchantment and effects and all that, technically it's the level 3 version of Chillrend. It's just mechanically identical to the level 61. As opposed to, making a spell to change leveled items. Just made everything identical. The nuances of modding everybody. And my method isn't exactly unique. There's a million different ways you can do any particular effect. Just a matter of how you prefer to do it. My particular philosophy is to reduce your reliance on external assets. That means I try to limit the amount of external scripts I'm running, external meshes I'm running, external text. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Like I have a mod that changes all the named items to have unique meshes. Obviously, it's going to have external meshes, but I typically try to just change numbers, so that way it's the least incompatible. And I was doing this way back before PlayStation 4 was a thing. It also reduces the file size quite a bit. Like, I've known other people who've done, like, armor overhauls, and they would have, like, even for, like, different color uniforms, they would have 5 or 6 different meshes, and I used to do that. But ultimately, I just decided to use texture sets, because a texture set is just a bunch of text. I'm telling it to look for a different texture file, and that's a lot better than creating, say, 6 different identical meshes that just link to different textures, when I can just link a texture set onto an existing mesh. So I only need one mesh. I'll have 6 textures, and I just refer to those textures with texture sets, as opposed to having 6 meshes, each with their own linked textures. So you save a little of space because you don't have 6 meshes; you only have one mesh. There's a million different ways you can do this modding stuff. That's just my particular philosophy. Limit the number of external files and bring down the file size as much as you can. $10.42. $10.43. So much red. Any other questions I can field? So you can see right now I'm just matching tint mask values to Ethereal Elven. I don't even know if anyone will even find this mod interesting. I don't even know if it's worthwhile releasing, because it's just basically just a compatibility patch for the particular selection of mods that I use. But I don't know. When I'm done, I'll probably release it anyway, because who knows? Maybe someone's using that particular selection of mods that I am using. And I'll show you which ones this compatibility patch actually requires as a master. So granted, it actually probably requires one of my own mods as a master. 21197. I don't think I even released my Khajiit expanded mod onto the special edition Nexus. I know it's on the regular Nexus. Should release that too if I release compatibility patches that require it. Not that one. Copy. Escape. 0.7. 33716. My gosh. Pretty much. I just figure out, because I figure out, I look at the individual mods and say, I like that idea, but I know it's going to conflict with my existing load order. So I'm like, well, I want the extra hair colors, because that's why I installed extra hair colors. I want the looks of the ethereal elephants, so I need their tint masks and I need their facial morphs. And I kind of like the idea of each race having their own skeleton, so that they, have different body proportions than, everybody else. As the mod itself showed, you can create an orc, which is supposed to be big, burly races, and they're like skinny as a beanpole, and their minimum should be some level of beefiness. But all those things conflict because they're all changing the same race records, so gotta build a compatibility patch. He's slow. Oop. There we go. Took a while to change color there. SSE edit. And if you don't build compatibility patches, you end up with really weird stuff happening in your game. Not necessarily game-breaking stuff, but weird stuff. For those of you who have been following along, you may remember that whenever we go to Windhelm, there was that Neria. That high elf vendor. She's a high elf vendor. And she has a completely black face. Yes, the orcs are exactly undersized. That was why I installed the mod. Let's see. Probably pull it up. Race. Racial body morph diversity. There it is. Here you go. Here we go. Alright, so in Skyrim, despite how unique each of the 10 races are proposed to be and their historical disparity in strength, size, speed, all of their bodies look exactly the same, and the height difference between them are smaller now than they have ever been in previous games. In Oblivion's, races had a weight attribute and scaled them across depending on whether they were orc, elf, or anything in between. In Daggerfall, some races have completely different character art, orcs for example. I am not going to turn off companion deaths. I turned them on particularly... Oh, you mean the companion death screen. There you go. That I can do. The companion death counter. Which is I thought you said you want me to mod it out. No, my companions are going to continue to die. That's half the fun of our Let's Play. But there you go. I turned off the sidebar. So yeah, the guy here's the racial body proportion thing. So what's worse is despite sharing the same body with no difference in scale, the race's heads are unique. Broad and powerful on orcs, narrow and slender on elves. Leading to ridiculous proportions such as this. This is not edited. This is an orc with average body weight. Yeah, that doesn't look weird at all. And meanwhile, here's a high elf with maximum body weight. That does not look weird at all, does it? What I had to do was first to simply rescale the races and make their height differences more apparent. Yada yada yada. so on and so forth. So I want to use those body proportions with, the facial changes from Ethereal Elven and the expanded hair colors. All of those will conflict because they all change race records. Every last one of them. Which involves you doing this to fix the problems. I am not looking forward to having to do the other races, the other elf races. I think I'll jump around I'll skip High Elf, I'll go right to Imperial. I'll eventually have to do all of them, obviously. But you can see how long this one Dark Elf thing is taking. And the other one shouldn't be nearly as complex. 0.28. 0.29, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.5, 599, 0.3, 46943. Once I finish these last two, I'll do a quick overview to show you how the compatibility patch. Well, I won't jump into the game because I want to finish all of them before jumping into the game, but I'll give you a sort of scan down so you can kind of see how everything sort of syncs up. Now obviously there's more data here, it's just that I only have the conflicts highlighted. So if we start from the beginning, and we look over at, here, you can see that pretty much we're just basically going to focus on this section, which has extra hair colors, and ignore the other two, just because there's enough real estate to show Skyrim and update. But you can see here, extra hair colors is using the base values. So height is height is 1.0 here, the standard. When we get to my Khajiit mod, and I basically, since it's my own mod, I decided to match it against racial body morphs. There's no reason not to. Ethereal Elven is using the standard scale here. So you can see height is here, and that's taken from racial body morphs. The skeleton is also taken from racial body morphs. The total number of tints here is actually taken from Ethereal Elven. You see all this is pretty much the same. But then we get down to the biped object names, which is basically just how you name the different parts of the body. And so you can see Ethereal Elven uses a completely different layout than pretty much anything else. So I used that layout. And these are actually blank spaces in here, meaning that even though you see the same number of things here, they're just in a different order. These are technically at a different location on the object names. So that's why it's not like up here, because there actually is a blank spot right here. This is an actual blank entry, according to Ethereal Elven. So you can see the entries are sorted completely different. You can see here, All the mods for Ethereal Elven use the standard set of noses. Ethereal Elven changes that. They also change the eyes and the lip types. So we're grabbing that from Ethereal Elven. But we're grabbing the hair options from extra hair colors and adding on the 2 additional hair colors Ethereal Elven gives us. As you can see, for the default face texture, it's actually blank. There is no default face texture in Ethereal Elven because I did all these tint masks things here. So I removed that, so there's no default face texture conflicts there. And we actually added a couple of new presets for the skin textures. We're using the tint masks for Ethereal Elven here. That's pretty much most of this section is the tint mask for Ethereal Elven. But we have all of these hairs. Now there is a couple ways I could have done this. I could have taken the Ethereal Elven files and copied them over into my races file, but then I would have to manually add all of these. And to me, well, it's not even the lesser of two evils. I either would have had to manually add all of these hair colors, and as well as doing the height and skeleton stuff that are from the other mods, and just have the bulk of the work from Ethereal Elven already copied through. Or I copied through extra hair colors, this is what I use for the base for this compatibility patch, and manually added all the entries from Ethereal Elven. Neither one's a particularly nice baseline to work from, is it? Alright, so we quickly save. So here's the High Elves. So you can see it's kind of similar to the one we just did. Then you have all the vampire races down here. Imperials, however, should be significantly easier. Except for all the extra war paints. Then we look at Khajiits. You can see Khajiit doesn't require too much work. Primarily it's to change the height and the skeleton, because I'm actually using the base from my Khajiit Expanded mod. And then for Nords, you can see here there aren't too many conflicts. Yeah, it looks like there aren't too many conflicts on Nords. The Imperials added some new war paints. Nords are pretty fine. The only real changes needed to be taken care of for the Nords are the skeletons from Racial and the heights. Let's see the Orcs. Orcs are pretty good. They have some additional noses. Weirdly enough. Why did I add additional noses for the orcs? I don't know. That is very weird. I added additional noses for the orcs in my Khajiit Expanded mod. Don't know where that came from. But yeah, you can see the orcs don't require too much work. It's mainly going to be the elves that are going to be the pain in the ass to deal with. Red guards. Lots of new war paints. Oh God, that's going to be a pain in the ass. What elves are going to be similar to any other elf race, as you can see, with all of that red I have to compare. Nord Vampire. Now, the vampire races throw an extra wrinkle to the mix because Dawnguard has its own changes. Unofficial Skyrim patch has its own changes to the vampires. But pretty much that's just it. Just those two add some additional stuff that I have to work out the nuances of. Let's see, here's the Argonian vampire. It's not too terribly bad. Oh God. I'm going to need to copy over Breton Vampire from the Extra Hairs patch. just delete it from my compatibility patch and import it from extra hair, because dear God. There's Dark Elf. You get the idea. And of course, in order for the compatibility patch to work, you need, interestingly enough, well, nah, that's the racial body morph mod. We need my compatibility patch to be looked at. Right, so my compatibility patch, you're going to need Khajiit Expanded, Ethereal Elven, Guild Member Overhaul mod. Do we actually need Guild Member Overhaul mod? We might not. I'll have to look through again to see if there's any reference to Guild GMO, the GMO mod. There might be. Because you can see it's actually got stuff that goes beyond the scope of just what's in the racial mod, because it had some additional stuff. And that might be where GMO is coming into play. Extra hair colors. All that red, though. My God. Oh, that's right. This ends up being ultimately overridden by the RS Children patch, because while I'm dealing with all of the adults and elder races and building compatibility for them, I haven't actually concerned myself with building compatibility for RS Children Overhaul, which is another mod I love, that gets rid of the potato children in Skyrim and gives us the proper children that we've been seeing for several episodes. So I've got to copy them in and get them, build them to be compatible with everything else. Ugh. That looks pleasant. One thing at a time, though. We'll take care of the adults, then we'll deal with the children. As you can see, compatibility patches can take some time, but we're not going to look at that right now. How bad are the Imperials again? You also notice that I'm not actually changing the mod I installed, Racial Body Morphs. I'm building a compatibility patch that has elements from that, but I'm not actually changing the original mod, because if I ever uninstall this mod or update this mod, then all of my changes would be overwritten. So that's why I build compatibility patches outside of the file, not just change the file directly. And if it's possible, what I like to do in working with these things, if the things changed by a mod have no unique elements like this has its own unique skeleton, but if it had if it had no external assets, I'll probably take a look at, I don't know, the consistent old people mod and the ethereal elven mod. I know Rara Children's probably got some new meshes, but I'll probably take a look at ethereal elven and consistent older people. And if they add no new assets, I'll just bundle their changes all together into my compatibility patch. Because if they're not adding any new assets, if they're just expanding from existing assets, that means I can remove 2 more files from my load order. And I always try to keep my load order as trimmed as possible. The less files you have bumping into each other, the less chance there is for the game to throw a hissy fit. So I try to keep my load order as small as possible. So I'm always building compatibility patches, removing files, compressing files into one file, and so on and so forth. Keep my game as stable as possible. And it is relatively stable. Outside of, the crash we were having before, but that was related to lights and shadows, and I was able to fix that. Then we had the big screen tearing thing, which I discovered was an issue with meshes that weren't properly converted for SSE. But aside from those 2 issues, it's been a really stable game, far more stable than it was with the original Skyrim. And original Skyrim, though to be fair, with original Skyrim, I did far less micromanagement behind the scenes. I would just install mods and be like, I hope they've got compatibility for that. I'm not going to do the work. But for SSE, I'm doing the work to make a better gaming experience. Alrighty. As you know, when I eventually upload this to BoobTube, I'm sure there'll be some people who will be like, I love your tutorial series, because I've actually gotten a few people who have said they love my tutorial series, and all the explanations I go into, the complexities of modding. My god, look at all those presets. And I can't just copy over Khajiit Expanded, because then I would lose all of these hairs. So here's a case of the lesser of two evils. Which would I rather do? Manually add all of these hairstyles, or manually add all of these war paints? Me, personally, I'd rather manually add all the war paints, but what would you rather do? I'm curious. Both of you who are watching now and those of you who watch later on YouTube, post your comments. Which would you rather do? Would you rather add manually in all of these hair colors, or manually add in all these war paints, if you were doing my work? And yes, I have to press add 3 times for each individual war paint. So if you were thinking it was less work, no. For each one of these is a single record. So for each one of these, it's a single record I would add, which is all those. For these, even though there's less, I have to do 3 times as many clicks before I can even start changing the values. A reason to have headphones on my ears that will make my ears ache after a few hours when I'm not listening to anything. Though, of course, Nightbot is here, so if you want to queue up music, we should have Auto DJ running, if I'm not mistaken. I'll log into Nightbot. Yep, Auto DJ is running. Exclamation point, song request, and then the YouTube URL. And Nightbot will automatically start playing that. But if you abuse that right, I will shut Nightbot down and I will probably kick you from the chat. So don't be a jerk.
Gosh, you got the ants everywhere.
Yeah, there's
you
ants.
Clean your table off at some point, I guess.
Nah. Just a direct URL, hetero, not a playlist. I don't think Nightbot can play playlists. Just a direct URL to the song.
mayonnaise has lime in it. That's why it's tart.
There you go, Hedgerow. See? Good old Nightbot doing the DJ gig. Apparently, there's a 10-minute maximum that Nightbot can play. The Nook queuing up 30 minutes of He-Man. Only 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more war paints to transfer over. Copy over. Dang it. Imperials are now matched up. Khajiits are now matched up. Ooh, the Nords will be easy. Thank you for being so simple, Nords. Thank you. It's going to be the elves that are going to be the pain in the ass. I'll probably end up doing the elves off camera because that's going to take a couple hours. And usually when it takes a couple hours, my preferred method is to watch YouTube videos while I'm working on it. Because it takes the time. Are the Nords good? The Nords are good. Orcs shouldn't be too bad. The orcs are done. The red guards were going to be a pain in the ass, weren't they? Hmm. Let's go over to the actual mod with the mod modification in it. Highlight the two races. Compare selected. That's not working, is it? Alright, so let's take a look at the red guards now. Of course. Well, I got the war paints in. Now I have to do the hair colors. Half of one, half a million of the others. Is there a clean way to copy this across? Oh yeah, there isn't. That's annoying. Try one other thing. Nope, that completely broke it. That should be easily fixable, but still a pain. So what did that unset? Yep. You can either copy across the hairstyles or the war paints. Um, and of course, what else are going to have? All that stuff I have to change. Nord vampires. How bad are Nord vampires going to be? Alright, head parts. What do we got to work with here? It's still not nearly as bad as the others, is it? Even though the Nord vampires have a lot more changes, they're not nearly as bad as some of the other ones. guess I'll go back to working on the red guards. Try not to leave too many of them incomplete. As you can see there, the Nords, even though I've updated them, are still highlighted in red. Because the changes aren't 100% identical to an earlier record. There are differences, which causes it to list as conflicting, I guess. Alright, so yeah, a bit of an ant problem around here, so I'm hesitant to put my orange down on my table. I put it down there for a second, and all the ants will come out of the woodwork. I mean, they're already on my napkin. Oh, war paint, war paint, war paint. What an annoying task to copy you all through. blue through, and then blue 3. Blue 4. No particular reason I'm doing it in this particular fashion. Just to change things up a bit for my own sanity. So just going straight down. Almost done. At least with this race. And we've got the other races to do. That everything? Are there any other conflicts I need to take care of? Nope, that looks good. Finally done with the red guards. Why is it highlighted in red for vampires. It's the eyes. I'm gonna leave the eyes alone though. That was easy. Well, Breton vampire. Where would it be? It. Yeah. Skip all the else. How does the Imperial look? this one, I can do a copy across and save myself some large amounts of work. Probably not. Well, let's see what we have to deal with for Khajiit then. And how are the red guards going to look? All those war paints I have to deal with. And all those war paints. Alright, let's see then. So I'll probably do those off camera and slowly. God, that's going to be annoying. Well, let's take a look at the other conflicts quickly before we call this stream. So I'd have to copy in all the RS children stuff, which isn't too terribly hard. I'm not saying anything terribly difficult in here. Yeah, it's kind of changing a couple of records, but I don't have to do any massive pacings. I have to move RS before my mod when I deal with the children, but it looks like for the most part the children compatibility will be easy. Yeah, these all look like they'll be pretty easy. You might notice that there's a few extra things with flags for playable in here. Might as well show you guys that. Clearly this is not going to be perfected. It'll take some time to perfect, but I'll show you something. Show you how relatively easy it is to make additional playable races. If they're, well, humanoid races. If they're non-humanoid races, things get a little bit more complicated, but like theoretically I could make like animals playable, but there's an entire host of problems associated with non-humanoids. With like animations and whatnot. Let me show you this. Assuming it doesn't crash, because I haven't really tested the playability functionality extensively. And of course, my compatibility patch isn't 100% set up, of course, but it should work. I'll give it a quick and dirty test right now. While the opening sequence is running, I'm going to kill some ants.
Hey. Hey, you. You're finally awake. Guard sure worked you over.
I told those Imperial soldiers you weren't with us, but they just grabbed you, like that thief over there. You stand with us, or you stand against us. We're all brothers and sisters in binds now, thief.
Shut up back there.
Wait. Who's that gagged fellow in the cart? He looks familiar.
Watch your tongue. You're speaking to Ulfric Stormcloak, the true High King.
That's the man who used the voice to murder High King Torrig, the leader of the rebellion? Hey, you! Ulfric! You traitor! You're the reason we're here!
At least Sovngarde will be waiting for us. Our ancestors. Feasting. Mead.
Gods, what I wouldn't give for some mead right now. What brings you into the cold grip of the Empire, anyway? I know you're not one of the rebels.
What hold are you from, horse thief? Whiterun? The Reach? Offengar?
Why do you care?
Because there won't be any holds once the Empire has its way. No Jarls to rule over them. Just Legion soldiers and martial law. Every man, woman, and child in Skyrim is part of this rebellion, horse thief. Everyone has to fight for the freedom of the Nine Holds.
Freedom of the Nine Holds? I don't remember the Empire sweeping up every cut person in Skyrim before you bastards started butchering their soldiers.
General Tullius, sir. The henchman is waiting.
Good. Let's get this over with.
Good old opening sequence. Get those there and their long ass opening sequences. It may be cool the first time, but after that you just kind of want to jump into the game and play it, damn it. There really should be a skip opening sequence button in these Bethesda games.
General Tullius, the military governor. And it looks like the Dalmor are with him. Damn. I bet they had something to do with
And the
this.
cart's gone pear-shaped.
Stop. By the authority of the Balmor, I'm taking custody of these prisoners.
I'm
sorry, that's just not possible. It would cause far too many problems.
You're making a terrible mistake. Your Emperor will hear of this. By the terms of the White Gold Concordat, I operate with full Imperial authority.
Thalmor, bitch. This is Helgen. I used to be sweet on a girl from here. Wonder if Elod is still making that mead with juniper berries mixed in. Funny. When I was a boy, Imperial walls and towers used to make me feel so safe.
Where are they going?
We need to go inside.
Why? I want to watch the soldiers.
Inside the house. Now.
Whoa!
Yes, Papa.
Get these prisoners out of the carts. Move it!
Why are we stopping?
Why do you think? End of the line. Let's go. Shouldn't keep the gods waiting for us.
No, wait, we're not rebels. You gotta tell them we weren't
Face your
with you.
death with some
This is a
courage.
mistake.
Shut up. Out of the cart, now. Step towards the block when we call your name. Don't even think about running.
Empire loves their damn lists.
Ulfric Stormcloak, Jarl of Windhelm, guilty of murder, high treason, and sentenced to death.
It has been an honor, Jarl Ulfric.
Next in line. Name?
Ralof, proud son of Skyrim.
I don't know about that. Okay, close enough.
Sentenced to death. Next in line. Name?
Lokir, and I'm not a Stormcloak.
It says right here you are. Sorry.
No, please, all I did was steal a horse. I'm not a rebel. You can't do...
Anyone else feel like running?
Next in line. Name?
And it broke when I tried to go to an elder. You can see it worked pretty well. Obviously there was some compatibility stuff I still have to tinker with. There's probably like a broken record in elders or something that I have to deal with. But you see. You see. Probably easily check to see what that broken record is, actually. I don't know if it's worthwhile to go fix it and then test it just for character creation, but I might as well take a look at it. See if I can eyeball it right off the bat. Racia's Ethereal Elven, race, and Elder race. Give it a moment. Does seem to be having no problem selecting Vampire or Child, though. Alright. Elder race. Face gen. Head. I mean, I'm not seeing anything notable that could be a problem. Just a direct comparison. Hmm. Skill boosts, none. Just straight up none. That could be the problem right there, though. Just a bunch of non-records might have been an issue. One point oh 0.98. One point oh 0.98. Don't know if that'll fix the problem, but why not? And if it doesn't fix the problem, I still gonna call it here. I'm not gonna dwell on it. It's not a big priority. The main priority is, of course, getting all those compatibility settings to work. This is more just like a, just sort of final throw-in.
It has been an honor, Jarl Ulfric.
Next in line. Name?
Rayloth. proud son of Skyrim.
Stormcloak. Sentenced to death. Next in line. Name?
Lokir, and I'm not a Stormcloak.
It says right here you are. Sorry.
No, please, all I did was steal a horse. I'm not a rebel. You can't do that.
Anyone else feel like running?
Next in line. Name?
Well, that works. That worked. Yeah. Like that was what the problem was. The lack of skills. Yeah, not a big deal. Like I said, plenty of stuff still to tweak and tinker with and fix up. That said, I will see you all in the future.